It has just been confirmed on the Call of Duty podcast that the final map for Black Ops 6 Zombies is releasing at the launch of Season 5, which is supposed to be either August 6th or August 7th. This map is of course going to be the Janus Towers map that we have been hearing about for quite a while now. Of course, it was teased at the end of the Shattered Veil Easter egg cutscene, and it's been leaked for quite some time. Now, for those of you who are unaware, there has been some rumors for the past couple months that have been saying that we might see more than 4 DLC maps in Black Ops 6 Zombies. We've actually been hearing that since January of this year. So a lot of people were running with the assumption that we might be seeing more than 4 DLC maps. But ever since Grief was announced for Season 4 and we were told that we are not getting any new Zombies map in Season 4, a lot of people started second guessing whether or not that's actually true, that we might be seeing more than 4 DLC maps, and of course they have now confirmed that we are only getting 4 total DLC maps, with Janus Towers being the final map in this game until Black Ops 7, which of course comes out at the end of this year. For me personally, I was very mixed on whether or not I was expecting to see more than 4 DLC maps. I wasn't expecting too many more maps than the usual 4, but I was definitely thinking we might see at least some sort of non-traditional 5th DLC map, like maybe an Outbreak map that's kind of thrown in as a surprise for the final season of the game. Something like that. I was definitely expecting something. There was also rumors of like a destroyed version of Liberty Falls that could have been a 5th DLC map. It wouldn't really be like a full new map. It would just kind of be a repurposed version of Liberty Falls for the final map. There was a lot of different rumors and speculation going around, but of course, like I said, we have now got confirmation that we are not getting anything after Janus Towers, at least when it comes to new maps. We might be seeing some new modes and other content like that, but when it comes to new maps, Janus Towers is the final one. And it also wasn't just the leaks and rumors of more than 4 DLC maps that had people thinking we were going to be seeing a DLC 5 or even a DLC 6. There was also the fact that Treyarch was pumping out these new DLC maps so fast. I mean, we had DLC 2 in January, which has never happened before, and then DLC 3 was in April. That is insane. Usually DLC 2 is coming out around April. So a lot of people were thinking, if they're pumping out these maps so fast, we must be getting 1 new map per season, or at the very least, maybe every season except for 1, we would have a new map. That's what a lot of people were kind of assuming at that point, because we were just getting so many maps so soon. I mean, they even released a map with Season 3's launch, which Season 3's launch also had Verdansk, which Verdansk was already a huge update, and they felt the need to give us a Zombies map during that update. So that was telling a lot of people that they probably have a lot more in store with this game. But of course, that just wasn't the case. It seems like we're only getting 1 more. Another thing that made people think we were going to get more than 4 DLC maps is the fact that the Tomb doesn't really feel like a full main map. It does feel more like a bonus map. Now, I do think the Tomb is a decent map. I've never been a huge The Tomb hater like a lot of other people are. I don't think it's one of the worst maps ever. I think it's definitely one of the worst maps in Black Ops 6, and it definitely was an underwhelming and disappointing map, but I didn't think it was this terrible experience whatsoever. I had some fun with it. It was decent for what it was, but a lot of people were assuming this is probably not meant to be DLC 2, rather it's meant to be a bonus map, and we might be getting more than 4 DLC maps to kind of make up for it. So the fact that we are getting a bonus map in the DLC is totally fine. And so a lot of people were actually more positive on the Tomb when it came out because of this. People felt like the Tomb was a pretty solid thing to hold us over in between the main map experiences. But of course, knowing that we only are getting 4 full DLC maps retroactively kind of makes the Tomb a much worse map that a lot of people are going to be looking at in a much more negative light now. And that is the main reason a lot of people are upset with this. It's not really the fact that we are only getting 4 DLC maps that's making people upset, because 4 DLC maps is the usual amount of DLC maps for pretty much every single Call of Duty Zombies mode. The thing that's making people upset is that one of the DLC maps doesn't really feel like a full map, and we were all going with the assumption throughout the entire year that we might be getting more. So then when we don't end up getting more, of course, it's going to end up a bit disappointing, even if Treyarch never officially said we were getting more than 4. So of course, this does have a lot of people upset right now online. They are talking about how this is really disappointing, and it's just going to overall put a bad taste in people's mouth when it comes to the end of Black Ops 6's life cycle, and it's definitely putting a lot more pressure on the Janus Towers map. If this map turns out to be not one of the best maps ever, or not even one of the best maps in this game, it's definitely going to disappoint a lot of people, and it might make people have a much more negative opinion on Black Ops 6 as a whole. A lot of people have also been mentioning that the release cycle is what pissed them off more than anything. They don't really mind the fact that they're only getting 4 DLC maps. They just don't understand why they would front load the first 3 DLC maps within the first 3 seasons and then only leave us with 1 map for the last 3 seasons. They think that they should have spread them out more. And I definitely do agree, that makes a lot of sense. I think the reason why they decided to front load all the content like that is because inevitably with any Call of Duty game, the player base is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller as the life cycle goes on. So they wanted to make sure they added as much content in the first half of the game's life cycle as humanly possible. They would rather front load all of that stuff in there instead of having it in the later seasons. They also know that the hype for Black Ops 7 is likely going to keep interest in Call of Duty for the final few months of the game's life cycle, so they don't really need to go that hard with new content because people are going to be excited for the next game anyways. But those first 6 months of a life cycle is the time where you really need to grab the community's interest as much as possible. So releasing as many new zombies maps does actually make sense, and it did work because think about it, people were non-stop talking about Black Ops 6 Zombies for the first 6 months of the life cycle. We're only really seeing people kind of not talking about it anymore because we haven't had a map since April, but when it comes to November to April, it was just non-stop zombies content. It would often feel like a new map would come out and then a few weeks later we would already have teasers for the next map. And I've mentioned before many times that I feel like the maps just weren't that replayable, so usually I just kind of fell out of interest in them pretty quickly, but by the time I fell out of interest in them, usually the next map was already being teased. So it just felt like we were having non-stop content, but of course now we don't really have that anymore. But we have the Black Ops 7 hype, so it kind of makes up for it, which is probably what they were thinking when they decided that release schedule. But of course, in general, I do think they should have been spread out. I do think that would have been better and more healthier for the zombies community. Now, in my honest opinion, I personally am not that upset with the fact that we are only getting 4 DLC maps with Black Ops 6. I'm actually fine with it. I think that's a good amount for any Call of Duty Zombies game. My issue is that the maps in this game, and pretty much every Zombies game since Black Ops Cold War, have just not had nearly enough depth, content, or map unique features to warrant its existence. I am kind of tired of that modern Zombies formula where a new map comes out and it just doesn't feel like there's that much new to the experience. It feels just kind of like every other map in the game. Of course, there's sometimes little changes here or there, but in general, there's not nearly enough setting these maps apart from each other. So when you get a map like the Tomb that basically has nothing new on it, I mean, there's not even a new special enemy. You obviously have the Shock Mimic, but that's technically in Modern Warfare Zombies, so it's basically not new whatsoever. The Wonder Weapon obviously isn't new. Golden Armor is cool to see, but it's not new. It was from Modern Warfare Zombies. There's just basically nothing new to that experience. It ends up feeling like it's not really a full new DLC experience. And I know people had their criticisms against some of the Black Ops 4 Ether remakes where they didn't feel that new, but the game as a whole had 4 Chaos maps that were full of new content, so I didn't really mind the fact that we had 2 DLC maps with Alpha Omega and Tagartoan that were kind of full of reimagined content. And even then, those maps still felt way more in-depth than anything in Black Ops 6, at least for the most part. Maybe Terminus can compare to it. I was honestly expecting to make a video at the end of Black Ops 6's life cycle talking about the fact that they need to focus more on quality over quantity, because I was fully expecting to see more DLC maps. I was expecting to see a 5th or maybe even a 6th DLC map, at least in the beginning of Black Ops 6's life cycle when the Tomb first released. And I was going to talk about how some of these maps should definitely be combined because they don't really feel like they should be their own experiences. We don't need 6 DLC maps. I was going to say that Citadel and the Tomb should have been combined into one map, which I still do think they should have been, and I think it would have made for a much better experience with a lot more content and a lot more depth, and it would overall feel like it has much more purpose to it. But the fact that we are only getting 4 DLC maps in total, and some of these maps really don't feel like they should have been their own map, is just incredibly disappointing. There's even been some rumors that Liberty Falls, Shattered Vale, and Janus Towers were supposed to be one big Outbreak map, and then somewhere in development they decided to cut each of the sections off and just make them round-based maps instead. Now, I don't know how reliable that leak is, but I did hear that, and I definitely believe it. I think that's more likely that they did something like that, cut it into a bunch of maps because they needed more content for this game, because because I refuse to believe that they decided that they really wanted to have 3 of their round-based maps in this game be set in the exact same area. Why did they have to do that? They probably didn't. They could have made each location somewhere completely different, or they could have done something different with the story and just made the maps very different. I mean, Treyarch has always done that. They've loved to diversify the locations of their maps. I mean, go back to Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, even Black Ops 4. Every location feels so different and unique from each other. Why would they all of a sudden decide that they need to have a bunch of maps in the same exact area? I feel like it probably was some development thing where they decided that they needed more maps, so they just took an Outbreak experience and then cut it up into a bunch of different round-based maps. I think that's very likely. Of course, it's just speculation. I'm just basing it off of some rumors, but I don't know how reliable they are, so don't quote me on it. Overall, I'm not nearly as disappointed with the quantity of maps as I am with the quantity of content within the maps, but in general, I definitely understand why a lot of people are upset about this news, and I hope that Black Ops 7 can make up for it. I really hope this game has a ton of content, and when I say that, I don't mean necessarily a ton of maps. I'm totally fine with there only being like 5 to 6 total maps in the game. I just want them to be crazy maps. Like, I'm talking some of the most content depth maps of all time. That's what we need. We need more content within the maps. Having a bunch of maps that are shallow and lack depth is really not that interesting to me. I want to see them try to make the best experiences we've ever seen with tons of unique content, unique wonder weapons, unique special enemies, and all that stuff. Black Ops 6 has not had nearly enough of that. It's been definitely a better game than Black Ops Cold War, but somehow they ended up having even less new content than Black Ops Cold War, at least from a wonder weapon and special enemies perspective. I still do like the game though. I think it's decent, but overall I think Black Ops 7 is probably going to overshadow it quite a bit when it comes out. And also, I think to keep us entertained in between new DLC map releases, they definitely should be giving us tons of new permanent modes, which I do think Grief mode in Black Ops 6 was a good thing to hold us over. I don't think it's nearly as good as the original Grief. I definitely think it does have some issues, but it is still pretty fun, and I think this is a great example of a mode that we need to be given in every single Call of Duty Zombies mode, and they can definitely do much more than this. I would love to see a full-on PvP mode. I would love to see gun game. I would love to see Gauntlet. There are so many other things they can do, or they can do survival maps, and I don't mean like the Tomb, I mean straight up like just survival maps, no Easter eggs, none of that. They can even take multiplayer maps and just turn them into survival maps. I would be fine with that. That would be a good way to hold us over between the main DLC maps as well. And like I said before, as long as the maps are full of content, then I am happy. We just need to get back to that BO3 and BO4 level of depth that we used to have. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will see you all in my next one. Peace out.